There is absolutely no doubt that Team New Zealand and the start they've made to the World Cup are the team to beat so far in England. Yes, what a start they've had to their tournament in England. 2019 World Cup, 5 matches played, 5 matches won. But for New Zealand, in contrasting fashion, it all started so well, but it's all gone downhill ever since then. That game versus Bangladesh becoming a serious reality check for the Calypso Kings. It is the clash match number 29 that's taking place between West Indies and New Zealand. And thank you so much for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day UK 2019. So building up to once again match 29, West Indies taking on New Zealand, and I'm joined in studio by Mike Hussey and Murli Karthik. Gentlemen, as always, good to have you with us on the show. New Zealand, we'll talk to them a little later, but West Indies, it hasn't been going well for them so far, but not too far back. That being a warm-up, they thrashed this New Zealand team, 400 plus on the board, and they beat them by close to more than 90 runs. Karthik, if you're part of such a fixture, you will always try revisiting back what happened there and try taking the positives moving into this one?
It is at the back of your mind for sure, but also at the back of your mind is your recent performance as well, because you don't rest on your past laurels for too long. And from a Windies point of view, they would want to revisit what they've done wrong, because they started off nicely. You spoke about the practice match. Even the way they played in the first couple of games was heartening, and everyone was talking about them having an outside chance. After that, it has gone a bit downhill. So you want to take the good, you want to take the bad, but at the end of the day, you just want to correct the mistakes which they've been making repeatedly.
Then also, generally, in the pre-match practice, you try to get a sense of what the team is doing, what the combination is going to be. But West Indies didn't have a pre-match practice, sir. They went clay shooting, and sometimes when it's not working for you, it's good to step away from the game and just sort of clear your mind.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as long as you're happy with your game and you know where everything's going. I think the West Indies are better than what they've shown in their last couple of matches, and I'm expecting a big performance from them today. We know what we're going to get from New Zealand. They're always just consistent, workmanlike. They just do their job. Every individual in the team come together and put in a good performance. Their sort of best and their worst, there's a very small gap in my mind. The West Indies, on the other hand, their best can beat anyone in the world. Yeah. But the gap between that and their worst is sometimes a bit too much. So I want to see today a West Indies team that are fully focused, switched on, give their best performance, and if they do, I think they can really shock New Zealand today.
Now, we're also joined on our show by Dan Vittori from New Zealand. Dan, great to have you with us. Just a word on Team New Zealand and the fact what happened with England yesterday, and now they've got India, Australia, and they've got some really tough fixtures coming their way. You suppose New Zealand really need to pack this one in the bag so that towards the end of the league phase, they can sort of not take that pressure on themselves?
Well, I think you've seen how the World Cup goes, that every game does matter, but you can't really predict what's going to happen. So you can say one game's hard, you can say one game's a must-win, you can say that they're expected to win this game. But I think, as Huss said, any team can turn up and put a performance together, and if any team can turn up more than any others, it's the West Indies. So I think New Zealand will be not nervous about this, but they'll be very respectful and wary of how good the West Indies teams can be. They saw that in the warm-up game, albeit that it's a warm-up game. But I think in the back of New Zealand's mind, they'll be thinking, well, if we can win this one, it's the lead into India and Australia, England, which are probably Australia and England, which are two of their biggest games. We get this one out of the way, we can relax to a certain degree, go into those games knowing that they're not make or break, and we can tell ourselves that we'll probably play a little bit better. So I think this is a really important game because it just settles every nerve New Zealand has about making those semi-finals.
Right, Dan. Of course, now the game is happening in Manchester, and Alexis Nunez is there in Manchester alongside the legendary Michael Holding. It's over to you now, Alexis.
All right, well, thanks, guys. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in Manchester. No need for jackets. The sun is shining. It is the perfect day for West Indians such as Mikey Holding and myself, and hopefully the perfect day for a West Indian bounce back. But Mikey, we know it's not going to be easy going up against New Zealand. A couple of the teams in the top 4, such as England, have even said New Zealand will not surprise anyone by making it all the way to the final. So let's talk about, first of all, the news of the day, and that is that Jason Holder confirmed in his 7-minute press conference yesterday that Andre Russell will take no part in today's match. Mikey, good move?
definitely a good move. Andre Russell has been struggling throughout this entire tournament, and he's even less than 50% fit. Some people will argue that a 50% fit Andre Russell is better than some of the other guys that are in the squad. I wouldn't really condone that at all, because he has been struggling in the field, not just bowling. Out in the outfield, he has been having problems. His knees giving him a lot of trouble. And he hasn't really been performing at the level that you'd expect with either bat or ball. So bring in someone that's 100% fit.
Well, something else that Jason Holder was asked, of course, is just how the West Indies are feeling about this matchup. And he said, look, we beat New Zealand in a warm-up match comprehensively. So, look, we could do it again. It is not impossible despite the current form that the West Indies boys are in. What can they take from that match and apply it in this match, even though we know different things have happened and different trajectories have been taken by the two teams, at least at this stage in the World Cup?
Well, when he says it's not impossible, nothing is impossible. But you still have to turn up and play well. And although the West Indies beat New Zealand in that warm-up game, I think they scored something like 421 runs, which is a lot of runs. If they can do that again here in this game, bat first and get a lot of runs on the board, they should certainly be able to win. I'm not very confident of the way I'm seeing West Indies play these days, though, Alexis, because that game against Bangladesh, 320 odd runs, and Bangladesh hit it off with 6 point something over the spear. That's not very convincing as far as I'm concerned. But who knows? It could be a different West Indies that turns up here today. If they play as well as they can, they certainly can beat New Zealand.
And then with that news, quickly before that, the fact that Andre Russell will not take part in this Wednesday's game, in terms of the bowling again, is this just even more of a case to bring back Kemar Roach? And possibly, could you make a case for Ashley Nurse to come in on this pitch?
This pitch here at Old Trafford has been known to take spin at times. Not every time that a spin bowler turns up here at Old Trafford, he gets wickets. We'll have to look and see if this pitch is a used pitch or not. If it's a used pitch, I see absolutely no reason why Ashley Nurse should not play. And as you know, Alexis, I've been talking about this from day one. Ball number one. Why is Kemar Roach not playing in this team? Let's hope he gets a chance this time.
Let's hope he does get a chance indeed. And let's hope that the West Indies do have something to give us the bounce back that we have been waiting for. You can't see Mikey Holding's toes right now, but they are crossed as well. Well, I'll be crossing my fingers. And until then, it's back to you guys. We'll see you in mid-innings.
Thanks so much for that, Alexis. Now, of course, let's get Darren Ganga's thoughts, who's joining us from the West Indies. Darren, you heard what Michael Holding and Alexis had to say. First and foremost, on Andre Russell, Jason Holder, of course, confirming that he is playing no part in this fixture. But my point is, if he's even 50 to 60% fit, would you not want to use him to bolster your batting?
Well, not exactly. I think, this team made a commitment from very early to play Andre Russell in the roles of either a lower order batsman and a bowler. And that has gone a little bit pear-shaped in terms of what he's produced and in terms of the sort of additional issues with his injuries to his knee and his wrist. So I think it has come to the point now where they've recognized that he is compromising the team in terms of being unfit and not being able to deliver in either departments. So that's the right choice. I felt even in the last game to play Andre Russell was a big risk. And there must have been some sort of medical intervention there with Andre Russell making a decision as to, what his workload could be like and what he can produce for the team. Yes, I think good sense has prevailed eventually, and Andre Russell will not be playing. Maybe he might be available for the last couple matches. Only time will tell. But it's been only 4 days since that game against Bangladesh. So I expect that Darren Bravo will continue to play in the squad, and I'm hoping to see a spinner included.
Right, of course. So that is confirmed that Andre Russell playing no part. Who will take his place, we'll get to know in a little while. For now, let's get back to Manchester and get a word on the pitch. And it's time for us to head back to Ian Smith and Michael Atherton with the pitch report for all our viewers in the Caribbean. Right, guys. So, of course, now what we do know is, in all likelihood, there's going to be a new pitch. If that is a new pitch, is there a case for someone like a Kemar Roach coming into this side now?
It's a little difficult to say. Even with a new pitch, they can still be very flat. I just think it's more of a case if it's an old used pitch where you've got footmarks for the spin bowlers to bowl into. If the pitch has been worn a little bit, then it can be quite slow as the game wears on. But if it's a brand new pitch, generally it would play pretty well. Maybe not much there for the spinners, but I still think for the balance of this West Indian team, I'd like to see an out-and-out spinner in there as well.
Karthik, also this ground, I'm sure you know this ground really well. The side boundaries are really short. The long boundaries are, of course, pretty long. So does that mean West Indies with their short ball strategy need a plan B now?
No, actually, I differ from that. I think it's quite even. It's a proper square. Even though it's been tilted around, it's still the same. Arjun, when it comes to the short ball tactic, you need to be sure what you want to do and the pace of the pitch. If, any short ball is only effective when you get it in the right area. If you don't get it in the right area, anybody could pummel it. So it'll be interesting how they go about it. But for me, it all dictates on the pace of the pitch.
Right, Dan, a word on not just the conditions, but of course we'll get to you in just a bit right now. But of course, as you can see, like of course, where Karthik and Michael were telling us about the pitch conditions in Old Trafford, and a lot to talk about that. Right, so that of course was the pitch report coming your way from Old Trafford. Ian Smith and Michael Atherton. Dan, a word on New Zealand and their bowling attack. A lot of people are saying that this is probably the most well-rounded bowling attack in the World Cup. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think I'd be happy with the way they performed, particularly those two all-rounders in Neesham and de Grandhomme. I don't think they would have expected as good a performances. Neesham with a 5-wicket bag against Afghanistan. You saw de Grandhomme in the last game, how effective he was. So I think they've utilised those two exceptionally well, which has helped with the balance, which has helped with padding out those 50 overs. I think they have huge expectations of Trent Boult and the way he's bowled for a really long period of time. And whilst he hasn't taken the wickets that he would like so far, I still think he will be a huge factor in the remaining games in this World Cup. Ferguson's proved himself in the last year or so with his pace and his ability to take wickets. And then they obviously had some choices with injuries, bringing Henry in. But his record is fantastic, and he's been able to deliver. And I think the key that allows everything to work, and I think it's the same with most teams, is that they can rely on Satner for 10 overs at any stage of the game. So they do have a really good bowling attack, but they possibly haven't been put under any pressure in this World Cup. And the game today against a destructive West Indies team, not a left-handed, right-handed combination, will put that very good bowling attack under pressure like it did in the warm-up game.
Right, it's time for a small little break here on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. But on the other side, the build-up continues with Michael, Hasi, Murli, Karthik, Dan, Vittori, Darren, Ganga, as we're building up to match 29, coming to you from Manchester. West Indies taking on New Zealand. We'll see you in just a bit.
Kane, let's go. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Late nights or early mornings?
Early mornings for a surf.
Who is your favourite cricketer?
Growing up, Sachin.
A batsman that you would have liked to bat with?
Ricky Ponting. Or Sachin.
What should no one ask you to do on video?
Sing, dance.
Why do so many contemporary cricketers have beards?
I suppose if they shave them off, they might look really young. So, which when I shave mine off, I do. So, I don't know. It's the sort of thing. It grows, shave it off, start again.
Okay, and who has the best beard in cricket according to you?
Moeen Ali.
Which is your favourite innings?
Favourite innings, favourite tournament was the World Cup 2015. So we had a number of innings there. We had a low-scoring game against Australia, which was an enjoyable innings.
Are all Kiwis as funny as Jimmy Neesham?
As funny? Most are funnier. He's not that funny. Nah, he's funny.
One stroke that you'd like to take from each of the following: Joe Root, Virat Kohli and Steve Smith.
Yeah, I mean, those three are all world-class and all very different, which is, I guess, one of the most attractive things. They're all very different players, but all very, very effective. I like how he reverse laps bowlers. Most of his shots would be nice to have. And Steve Smith, the way he hits the ball through mid-wicket from any position.
Would you rather win a Test Championship or a World Cup?
At the moment, the World Cup is the pinnacle event, but we'll have to see how the Test Championship goes, because I'm sure that'll be a great thing to win as well.
Your favourite sports person outside cricket?
Roger Federer.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019. As we're building up to West Indies taking on New Zealand at Old Trafford, it's time for us to head back to England now, as it's time for the toss with Michael Atherton for all our viewers in the Caribbean. Right, guys. Darren Ganga is still with us. Darren, a word on West Indies. Now a total of 4 games remaining, counting this one. You reckon they really need to get that juggernaut going, because if you are to stand any chance of qualifying for the semis, you probably need all 8 points.
Arjun, it's a do-or-die situation for this West Indian team. They've got to focus, in my estimation, on 2 main departments. That is, first and foremost, that opening partnership. They've been the worst in this World Cup so far. They average just about 13. That's Chris Gayle, Shea Hope, and at times Evan Lewis, recent times. So that opening partnership has to be more productive. They've only been able to muster 1 win, and that, to me, is not going to get them in the semi-final round. They must win this game against New Zealand. The other area of the game, I think, that needs a lot of focus, the West Indies, their bowling attack, they've been fantastic in power play number 1. I think they've picked up the most wickets by any team so far, 10 wickets. But it's that second power play that they've struggled to pick up wickets. They've only picked up 13 wickets on an average of 46. So that's a difficult period that Jason Holder will need to find the right combination to get wickets to put the opposition under pressure. New Zealand, completely different picture. They're the best in that period of the game. I think their bowlers averaged 22 and they've picked up 23 wickets. So those 2 areas I expect to see a vast improvement by the West Indies, and if they can get those 2 areas of the game right, I think they can overcome this New Zealand side, which is a very good side.
Also, the fact that you've got Michael. If you put them under pressure early on, which is what you're playing into West Indies' strength, then that is your best chance to really get at them.
You mean the West Indians?
Yeah, New Zealand with the batting, and if you put them under pressure early on, you have a good chance to get past them then.
Yeah, well, definitely. The West Indians, as Darren said, they've picked up a couple of wickets early, and they're going to have to do that again today against New Zealand. That's going to be really important. But the key wicket is obviously Kane Williamson. He's the one that just holds that team together. He can play that innings under pressure. So I just think he's got to have his best bowlers onto Kane early.
Right, of course, all eyes will be on West Indies and New Zealand. How does West Indies approach this one? Right, so of course, word has come in from the centre. West Indies has won the toss and decided to ball first. Karthik, can you understand that? Given the fact that New Zealand have always chased in this World Cup so far, so you're putting them in a situation which they haven't been in. So you might just test them there.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's that or it's the conditions. Again, while we are talking, it's very difficult to understand what the pitch is and what the conditions are like. But it's an interesting call because the last few games which have been played there, I think teams have batted first. So it's interesting why West Indies have thought about it. Yes, one line of thinking is that they're comfortable chasing, so you are asking them to put a target on top, and then West Indies can chase it, or possibly they don't back themselves while defending targets.
After what happened with Bangladesh.
Yeah, with what happened with Bangladesh, it's a tough one to say that.
I just think, well, when teams these days tend to like to chase, it just sort of takes one of the variables out. If you're looking at the pitch and you're not 100% sure how it's going to play or what a good score is, well, then you put the opposition in, they get whatever they get, and then at least you know, okay, well, we've got to play according to whatever they get. So you sort of take one of the variables out, whereas sometimes if you're batting first, you're not exactly sure what a good score is, how hard do we go go slow, you can sort of adjust the way you play.
Right now, the New Zealand 11 is in, and Dan, you had called for Henry Nicholls to come into this playing 11. Sir, I am sorry to disappoint you. Henry Nicholls is not in the squad. Colin Munro is still continuing. It's the same 11 from the last game, Dan.
I'm not sure I was calling for it, I was just guessing. I feel like you guys are making me make a decision on some changes. But look, I think we talked about Nicholls being so prolific early on the season, but one thing New Zealand has done for a long time now is back a winning team and back players, and you've seen that so far in this tournament where they've picked the same team for every game. So I think they'll have that feeling within the camp that they can conquer anything, and I think they want to give that chance to the team that so far has won all their games. So I applaud them for that. I think there's a lot of teams that look to chop and change. There's a lot of pressure to try different things, but this New Zealand team has realised that this 11 is ready to go and playing well, and they want to back them in every situation.
Let's just take a look at West Indies' playing 11 now, and they've made a total of 3 changes from their last game. Ashley Nurse is in, Kemar Roach is in, and Carlos Brathwaite comes in as well. Darren Bravo is out, Andre Russell is out, and of course Shannon Gabriel is not a part of this squad. Darren, are you happy with the changes that have been made?
With 2 changes, I think they were expected. You expected that Andre Russell, because of his fitness, mightn't be in this squad. You expected that Kemar Roach would be included, and we expected that a spin option would be included. I think it was a judgment call there with Ashley Nurse or Fabian Allen. They've gone for the experienced Ashley Nurse, who's been a part of this West Indies one-day side in the build-up to this World Cup. So those are 2 good changes. Now, I keep talking about the balance in this West Indian side and their propensity to continue to pick all-rounders. And Carlos Brathwaite, in my estimation, yes, potentially he's a good player, but he hasn't been able to deliver in either departments of the game. That is why I think there is a need for making a decision with regard to choosing a specialist position, with either a specialist bowler or a specialist batsman. I think Darren Bravo has been in and out of this squad, and I still think that middle order there lacks experience. You think about Shimron Hetmeyer, you think about Nicholas Pooran. If a tough situation arises, can they deal with it? Can they absorb pressure? Can they respond accordingly? That, to me, is my major concern. I'd rather see a specialist batsman in there, in Darren Bravo and Jason Holder and this West Indian side, choosing their 5 bowlers to do the business for them. They've gone for the all-rounder. Let's wait and see if Carlos Brathwaite could deliver and sort of produce a match-winning innings. He's really struggled in this tournament so far.
Yeah, hi, DJ Karthik here. A couple of questions for you related to what you said just now and one before that. You were here before going back to West Indies, and from that time we've been harping on the fact that Kemar Roach should have been there in the side, which Mikey also mentioned. Do you have any reasons, since you're very close to them, why Kemar Roach has not been picked so far, firstly? And secondly, you mentioned Darren Bravo. Darren Bravo again has played quite a bit, and his numbers actually have actually flattered to deceive more than anything else. He's had all the talent for all these years, but the numbers have always flattered to deceive. Do you think that Andre Russell missing out Carlos Brathwaite is a direct swap? That's the reason why they have picked him?
Well, I think in terms of Kemar Roach, I definitely think he can bring more discipline to the side. Why he's been left out of this squad for the earlier matches, I think, is because of their sort of focus on bowling short and aggressive and fast. Kemar Roach is not the fastest, but he is more a line and length bowler. I think that is what the team requires now, so that's a good move. In terms of Darren Bravo, you look at this West Indian batting lineup, you want experience. It's the experienced players we've seen in this World Cup that have dominated. Yes, he's played 5 innings in that triangular series. He's only batted on 3 occasions, didn't really score anything, but he has been a consistent player for the West Indies. He's got the experience. I rather back experience, hoping that player comes into form, than just put an all-rounder there when you're not sure what you're going to get with ball or bat. Darren Bravo still has the propensity to score runs, but when you keep leaving him out and picking him, that really doesn't do quite well for his rhythm and his ability to contribute.
Right, it's time for a small little break here on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019. West Indies have made 3 changes to their squad. New Zealand have gone in with an unchanged squad. West Indies won the toss and have decided to bowl first. It's time for a small break. We'll be back on the other side.
Clive Lloyd's West Indies won 2 World Cups without losing a single game. Fans of Serena or Roger who've seen them sail through to trophies without dropping a single set, you must know that feeling. The next time a team was invincible through 2 World Cups was Ricky Ponting's Australia. Cricket might be in the blood for many families, but World Cup cricket not so much. Only 2 father-son pairs have played in World Cups, Lance and Chris Cairns and Don and Derek Pringle. while Lance and Chris combined played for New Zealand in 7 of the 11 World Cups, Don and Derek Pringle hold the unique distinction of having played for different teams, the father for East Africa and the son for England.
Welcome back to ESPN Cricinfo Match Days. We're building up to game number 29, coming to you from Manchester. West Indies taking on New Zealand. West Indies have won the toss and elected to bowl first, which means you'll see the likes of Colin Munro take to the field pretty soon. Dan, I'll come to you with Colin Munro. He hasn't been having a good World Cup. He hasn't had a great 2019 so far. And you see a couple of his stats. Overs 1 to 10 in 31 innings. He's had 23 dismissals in the first 10 overs. It's only in 11 to 40 that he's had 8 innings in total there. You suppose if you ask him to rein it in a little bit, will that be a little alien to him and his approach?
Well, I think they want him to play that way in a lot of ways. I think you've seen how successful he's been in the T20 game. And before this last year or so, he's probably been able to translate that into his one-day game as well. So I think in the back of their minds, New Zealand expect him to be destructive, and they expect him to complement what Martin Guptill's doing. So I don't think they'll want him to change anything, and I think it's a style of play that he's really familiar with and would like to keep going with. And I think because of the consistent nature of Williamson and Taylor in particular, if they can allow Munro to play that aggressive game, he could come off at one stage, could be in a big game, could be in a semi-final or even hopefully a final, that there's no point in reining him in because they back the rest of their batting lineup. So I expect Munro to go out there and play, to be aggressive, and New Zealand will hope, well, more than hope, because he's such a good player, that today could be his day to turn it all around.
From a West Indies point of view, when you've got two batsmen who are looking to be attacking right up front, what is your plan? I mean, are you always looking to bounce them out, not give them space, not give them any room, and that is the way you can get them?
I think it's a dangerous tactic against both these players, Guptill and Munro, because they're good when I think they're very good when the bowling's off. And you're bowling those loose balls, they put it away, and they can be very aggressive with that. I think the West Indians need to show more patience and more discipline, hitting a good line and length early and try and beat them with good deliveries, and then make them try and force something off a good ball that's not quite there to hit. I think if they try and be too aggressive and go for too much, then that's when their disciplines can go awry, and that's when the scoring can really come quickly. So I'd like to see a really disciplined West Indian attack, and not too much of the short stuff this time.
Karthik, what does Nurse bring to this team, keeping in mind the left-handers on the opposite side?
I think he brings control. He's not a big spinner of the ball. He's not somebody who's going to try and get you out. He's only there who's trying to be economical, get his 10 overs cheaply, and possibly if he gets a couple of wickets, he gets a couple of wickets. But otherwise, it's more about control with Ashley Nurse.
So then, as far as these New Zealand batsmen are concerned, you get past, of course, Colin Munro, you get past Martin Guptill, then you've got Kane Williamson, you've got Ross Taylor. I mean, there really is no let-up, right? Like, I mean, till when? This looks like a very complete and deep batting lineup.
A very good batting lineup. And I agree with Dan. I think Guptill and Munro should continue to play their way, be aggressive, because they've got the likes of Williamson, Taylor, Latham that are so good in those middle overs, just rotating the strike and play according to the situation. So each one of those players down the order, they play their role so well, all the way down to, I tell you, Mitch Santner is a good player as well. He's batting at number 8. So and Henry's no mug as well. So they've got a very well balanced team in my view.
Right, it's time for a small little break here for all our viewers in the Caribbean. It's time for you to join match action, live action coming to you all the way from Old Trafford. West Indies have won the toss and decided to bowl first. Enjoy live action. We'll see you in the mid-innings break. For all our viewers on ESPN Digital, we are still here by popular demand. Darren, just a word on Plan B. I mean, this word has been spoken about so much ever since West Indies, did that versus Pakistan, but then it sort of, frizzled away a little bit. What do you suppose is Plan B with the bowlers in hand today?
Plan B has to be about discipline. I spoke about the extras in the last game. I think it was 24 wides, and even in the game previous to that, somewhere around 24 to 26 as well. So I think more discipline, more control. That to me is what Kemar Roach will bring to this bowling lineup. They can't get too emotional with the short deliveries. Teams are expecting short deliveries from this West Indian side. So they've got to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Try to bowl in the right areas. I always talk about the test lengths, hitting the top of off in any conditions. If you bowl in that area and you keep that short delivery as a weapon, I think you will trouble the best in terms of batsmen in this World Cup. So it's about being smart and thinking on your feet as a bowling unit. That is what we've not seen from this West Indian side. You look at that game against Bangladesh. Yes, they were short, and Bangladesh, they were scoring consistently, and there was no sort of move to change the lengths in terms of getting fuller, setting straighter fields. That is what I think a lot of West Indians expect when a game is unfolding. They want to see the strategy change according to the opposition, what they're doing, and what they think might work to their advantage. So the West Indies team need to be switched on mentally as a bowling unit.
Dan, this is the first time that New Zealand are batting first in the World Cup in 2019. A bit of pressure in that sense, and what would be a good score for you? 330, 350?
Because there have been a couple of great games around that 240, 250 mark, which New Zealand have been involved in against South Africa and against Bangladesh. So, look, I think first of all, New Zealand will be happy to bat first in a lot of ways because you want that preparation. You understand your team and your dynamic as a tournament team, and we've seen them as a chasing team, and obviously a very successful chasing team. Now it's a chance to be a setting team, and that puts different pressures on the batting unit, and probably more importantly puts different pressures on the bowling unit. So Old Trafford traditionally is a good wicket, but we have to wait and see how it's going to play out before we can actually understand what a right score is. But I think this is the sort of game where you'll see the aggressive nature of Munro and Guptill come in, and then it'll be complemented with that middle order, Williamson and Taylor, to continue to do what they do and hopefully set up a big total that the New Zealand bowling attack can defend.
Now, of course, without fail on our show, what we do is we get our experts to predict the outcome of the game even before a ball has been bowled. Not an easy task, but we're also giving you the chance to do that. All you have to do is go onto the ESPN Cricinfo website and go and enjoy a bit of cricket picks.
Put your tipping to the test. Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions and track your progress throughout the tournament. The easiest thing you'll do all day. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
Right, so, not bad. We've got 4 going New Zealand's way. We've got 3 experts going West Indies' way. Darren Ganga, Ajit Garkar and Sharia Nafiz going West Indies. And the New Zealand campaign is over here. We've got Dan Vittori, Murli Karthik, Michael Hussey. Just why would you say that?
Well, when I made that prediction, it was pretty much straight after the West Indies had lost to Bangladesh. So it was a bit of rage selection there, and New Zealand are a very well-rounded team. Although, having said that, I think this is a tricky situation for New Zealand now that they're going to be batting first, because I think they're going to find it difficult to know what is a good score against this West Indian team, because a West Indian team chasing with the likes of Gale, Lewis, Pooran, Hetmeyer, Holder, Brathwaite, what is a good score? Because the way they play, they just come out and go hard. It's difficult to know if you're going to need 300, 350, 400, 450. They got over 400 against them in a practice game. So what is a good score? And that's going to be the challenge for this New Zealand team.
First 10 overs sets the tone for this game purely because of what West Indies possess, and if they are able to make inroads, then it could be a different story.
The first half an hour always is key. The first half an hour to 45 minutes, you try and suss out what is happening on the pitch. It looks like a glorious day in Manchester. From whatever we saw against Pakistan, it was a good wicket. But again, is it the same surface? I have no idea.
It's a new surface.
It's a new surface. Yeah. So if it's a new surface, obviously you can't just go and start blazing away. They will possibly take a few overs to figure out what the pace of the pitch is. And you don't want to give early wickets. And with the way both Martin Guptill and Munro can go, I'm pretty sure that they will take a few look-ins before they start teeing off.
Dan, the last time New Zealand and West Indies took on each other in a World Cup game, Martin Guptill went pretty big, 237. You were part of that game as well. I'm sure he's relishing the opportunity to do the same today.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Guptill, more than any of the other batsmen, has that ability to, on any given day, turn up and do something special. And probably hasn't had quite the tournament like so far, but he's one of those guys that over an extremely long period of time now has been an amazing player for New Zealand. And I think the thing that will stand out for him is that he likes pace on the ball. And if you look at that West Indies bowling lineup with Kemo Roach, O'Shane Thomas, Cottrell, those are sort of bowlers that in the past Guptill has played exceptionally well. He's been aggressive against them, hit them off their lines and scored a lot of boundaries. And I think he'll be excited about that early on. Old Trafford generally is a good wicket, and Munro and himself at the top of the order against pace could be extremely dangerous today.
Darren, final word on the show for you. And we've already had 3 people who are going with New Zealand for the win. Convince them, change their mind, Darren. Tell them why West Indies will change them and prove them wrong today.
When they are at their best, they can beat any team in the world. We all know that. Potentially, this is a very good West Indian side. They've been plagued with inconsistency. As a team, many of the big match players, they've not turned up with big performances in this World Cup. You think about this West Indian side, no one has scored a century just yet. So somebody is due. Chris Gayle, he's been very dormant. I spoke about that average opening partnership of it just being 13. I'm sure with Chris Gayle, knowing that this is his last World Cup, he will want to start churning out the big scores. This might just be a team that he's focused on, but potentially they can play well. And we've said it before, that warm-up game proved that. If they discover good form, this West Indian side could get the better of New Zealand.
Darren Ganga, Dan Vittori, Murli Karthik and Michael Hussey. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. As we are building up to New Zealand taking on the West Indies. West Indies have won the toss, decided to bowl first. We will, of course, see you again in the mid-innings game. Goodbye.